Base Official, and welcome to today's episode. Today we are covering how to strengthen your lower abdominals. Now the first kind of topic I want to cover or target is the idea of there being lower abdominals and upper abdominals. The fact that you can kind of split the two in two, because some people say it's one muscle, you can't kind of go lower abs or upper abs, you go both. That's completely false. Multiple reasons. The one that I'll share with you is that the abdominal wall is actually innervated by multiple different nerves. So that means it could be a stabilizer on one side and a prime mover on the other side. So you have immense control over the over the abdominal wall because of the fact it has multiple nerves kind of running to it and stimulating it. You can train your lower abs specifically, which you need to do, because if you don't have functional lower abdominal kind of muscles, then your psoas, if it gets tight, it will completely screw up your posture because it will cause an anterior pelvic tilt, which is important. It's like a segue onto the first thing you need to understand when trying to strengthen any muscle is what is that muscle's action? What does it mainly do? Now the lower abdominals, what they mainly do is they posteriorly tilt the pelvis. Forgive my poor handwriting, but the lower abdominals posteriorly rotate the pelvis, so if they are asleep or dormant or you don't really use them very much, your psoas will cause an anterior pelvic tilt and screw up your posture. So I've laid out three kind of phases or stages that you need to go through, the general population needs to go through. First phase I call the wake up phase. Most people do have an anterior pelvic tilt because of an kind of dormant or sleeping lower abdominal muscle, lower abs. So we want to wake these muscles up. So all you want to do for 1 to 2 weeks, or 1 week, do it 6 times a day for 2 minutes, is posteriorly tilt your pelvis. So if you lie down like this guy is on his back and his legs are kind of bent, you want to posteriorly tilt your pelvis for 2 minutes 6 times a day, just to wake up that muscle. To make it harder, you can extend the legs out so that they're flat and still start posteriorly rotating your pelvis. That's the wake up phase. Once you've kind of isolated them or woken them up, you can move on to phase 2, which is more of a strengthening phase for the lower abdominals. So you get into this position, you lie on your back with your knees bent, and you draw in your belly button, so you activate your transversus abdominis, push it from your lower back into the floor, or you can put your hands behind your lower back, just beneath your belly button level, so your level of your L3 vertebra of your spine. Put your hand there and put pressure on your hand, and you want to maintain that constant pressure throughout the entirety of the movement. You want to pick one leg up so that the thigh is vertical with the floor, and then put it down, and then go up with the other one and put it down, and go like that. And you want to work up to 30 repetitions of this whilst maintaining constant pressure onto the floor or on your hand. Once you can get 30, then you can start making it harder by increasing the angle at the knee until your legs are straight, so that you're doing one leg is straight, other leg is straight. Then you can move on to this step, which is when you start with both feet actually up in the air in this position, and you lower one foot, tap the ankle and raise it, lower the other foot and tap the ankle, whilst maintaining that constant pressure on the floor or on your hands. And again, you can make that harder by increasing the angle at the knee, so you move on to working up to 30 reps with straight legs and going down like that. Obviously that requires a bit of flexibility in your hamstrings, so that forces you to work on your flexibility hamstring as well. Then once you can do 30 repetitions of that, you move on to the third kind of exercise before you move on to the big boy exercises. Is instead of doing one leg at a time, you now do both legs at a time. So go back to bending your knee and going down. pulling in your belly button, activating your TVA, pressing down into your hand on the floor, posteriorly rotating the pelvis, and lowering your legs, tapping and coming up whilst maintaining that constant pressure. Once you can get 30 repetitions in this exercise, you probably have sufficient abdominal strength to move on to some more exciting exercises that most people just jump straight into at the gym and not really reaping the benefits of strengthening the lower abs the way that they should be strengthened. So I'm going to share with you the exercise you should move on to is the reverse crunch. Leave the leg raises and the knee raises at the moment because they require a lot of strength and technique that most people don't have at the gym. I'm not even strong enough yet to be able to do them properly. So we start with the reverse crunch. If you want to make that harder, you can move from a bench reverse crunch onto a Swiss ball. Now wherever the Swiss ball is located makes it harder for your core musculature and shifts the emphasis up and down the actual kind of abdominal wall. Now you want to begin this exercise trying to aim for the endurance. So there's different energy systems. You want to work with the aerobic energy system, so you need to be working for a minute plus. So I would recommend going 2 to 3 sets of 15 to 20 repetitions with a 1 minute rest. That affects your muscular endurance. If you wanted to do it for strength purposes, then I would recommend going 3 to 4 sets of 8 to 12 repetitions with 1 to 2 minute rest. That obviously depending on the level of repetitions you do in the set. So what have we covered? We have covered the action of the lower abdominals to posteriorly tilt the pelvis. We've gone through the 3 phases that you need to go through. The wake up phase, where you just practice posteriorly tilting the pelvis in a kind of supine position. Then you move on to 2 more strengthening type exercises, isolating the lower abdominals. You have 1, 2, and 3, each with their own progressions in lengthening the legs. 30 repetitions, then you move on to 30 repetitions, then you move on to 30 repetitions. Once you can get 30 repetitions doing this, then you probably have enough lower abdominal strength to move on to the reverse crunch. Now you can move from the reverse crunch onto the Swiss ball crunch to make it harder and more challenging for the stabilizers because you're on an unstable surface. To target endurance to aerobic systems, 2 to 3 sets of 12 to 20 repetitions with 1 minute rest. To target the strength and more of the lactate system or the ATP systems, 3 to 4 sets of 8 to 12 repetitions with 1 to 2 minutes of rest. Now, I hope you put this into practice and it helps you out. If you have an anteriorly rotated, tilted pelvis and you have that kind of Donald Duck type posture, this is extremely important. Make sure you stretch your hip flexors before doing these because you don't want the psoas to join in. You'll just facilitate your bad posture. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Train hard.